Welcome to Mindful Conversations, the series that seeks to leave no topic unturned. We hope this series empowers you with the skills and tools to thrive in life. Wherever you are on your well-being journey, we hope you find something that inspires you today.
Welcome to Mindful Conversations, and I'm joined today on my sofa by Jack Dacombe. Jack, thank you for being on the sofa.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
There's a journey before you obviously became a psychotherapist. Tell me a little bit about your personal journey with mental health.
I think I probably developed depression and anxiety when I was maybe 14, 15. Certainly I can remember that being the start of a pretty dark period for me mentally, but it wasn't a thing. We didn't know about it. There was no information. There was no pastoral support, and that's a sign of those times. I ended up getting diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety when I was about 21, when I was at university, and I was offered cognitive behavioural therapy, and being a big, tough, macho rugby player, I went, nope, therapy's for wusses, I don't want anything to do with that, I'll just take some antidepressants and I'll be fine. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. So I sort of left university and I sort of dotted around doing some sales jobs, and I went into the city and worked there for maybe a decade plus, and all the while my mental health was slowly deteriorating, and I was on and off antidepressants, but they never really sat well with me personally.
When you say it was slowly deteriorating, can you tell me a bit more? What was deteriorating? What were the signs? Was it your sleep? Was it your behaviour? Was it your mood?
All of the above, option D. It was a combination. So behaviourally, I was getting worse and worse, and I think I was probably becoming more and more difficult to be around. I was drinking more and more. Alcohol was very much a crutch for me, because I just didn't want to feel the way I felt, and I didn't know what to do about it, and I didn't know that I wanted to do anything about it. I didn't know that I could do anything about it, and I didn't really see a future for myself. So I thought, well, bugger it, I'll just drink and I'll be a fun guy, and that's what I'll do. And it was a very difficult time.
Did your friends recognise what was going on? Did your colleagues recognise what was going on? Did anyone kind of pull you aside and say, Jack, hang on a minute, your drinking's a bit out of control, what's going on?
I don't think it would be my drinking was out of control to other people, because I worked in the city, and I've got a lot of friends who work in the city, and
it's the culture. Some
people who class themselves as professional lunchers. I think there were certainly times when friends pulled me aside and went, come on, what's going on with you really? Like, clearly something's not right. And it wasn't that I didn't have the willingness to talk about it. I didn't have the language. And it's sort of one of my bugbears about how we treat mental health in this country, is that I majority see young men, and I see young men come to me saying, I'm on XYZ antidepressant, I'm on XYZ anxiety. I was like, brilliant. Did you see a GP or a psychiatrist? And normally it's a GP. I was like, okay, brilliant. Did they explain to you what depression or anxiety was? No. Did they explain to you how these drugs work? No. It was very much a rushed appointment because the NHS is completely overwhelmed, and there isn't the resources to do specialist mental health care, and they're just sent away. And what do you do when you're sent away with drugs by a GP? You presume those drugs will cure the problem.
Yeah, happy pills.
Yeah, happy pills.
Yeah.
And they have no understanding of it. So at that stage, that's where I was.
Obviously, antidepressants is one part of the solution. You've already talked about, you mentioned CBT when you're at uni. Yeah. What other treatments or therapies have you kind of tried to help?
So I didn't go into therapy until things started getting really bad. So that was about maybe 5 years ago. Okay. This was a point where I'd really hit a nadir with my depression, or I thought I had, and I thought, well, maybe I should see help. So I sort of reached out and spoke to a psychiatrist, and actually went and had, for the first time since I was 21, a proper sort of mental health MOT with him. And he was this wonderful chap he splits time between Harley Street and the Priory in Roehampton. And he sort of explained to me what was going on with me and quite how bad it had got, in no uncertain terms, which I needed at that point. I needed to be like, this is not okay. You have to do something about this. But something always sticks to me at the end of our consultation. He's looked me in the eye, shook my hand, this vice grip, and goes, you and me, between us, we'll kick the shit out of this. And I went, this is exactly what I needed to hear. I needed to hear that, A, this is not okay, but B, we can do this. Yeah. And I sort of felt
that energy.
I felt a surge of adrenaline and a surge of hope at the same time. That's like, this is new.
What was the triggering point for you? Do you remember that moment? I have to go and get help now, otherwise it's going to be too late.
So I'd gone through, quite a rough breakup, which in itself wasn't particularly sort of big adverse life event, but it felt like it was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was a pretty toxic relationship for me, and I was drinking really heavily during the relationship, and at that I just went, I just don't know if I can do this anymore, and I was really, really struggling, and I was in tailspin, and Dr. Cameron sort of said to me, look, at some point you may want to check yourself into hospital. When you do, you're on the register, it's absolutely fine. You can ring up and just say, I want to come in, and you will be admitted. That's absolutely fine. And I was like, no, I won't need that. Yeah, I did. Yeah. And it's, even though I was sort of on proper medication, even though I was seeing a therapist, it got to the point where I just got worse and worse and worse, and I started getting pretty scared. So I did. I checked myself in.
Well done. I want to ask a question because it always gets said to me, and it's really hard to explain and put into words, but when people say, so selfish, how could you even think of taking your own life? You've talked about having those feelings of wanting to end your life. Yeah. For you, what did that sound like?
For me, it was, I don't know, it was the absence. It was an absence in my life. It was an absence of tomorrow. It was an absence of the next week. It was an absence of the next month, the next year. It was, what do I want out of life? Nothing was the answer. It was a total disengagement from living. And then you add on to that sort of crippling mental and emotional pain that someone in the throes of depression is going through day in, day out, with no respite. You're on antidepressants, they barely touch the side. You see a therapist, but talking can only get you so far. Once a week, so thing. We'll talk a little bit about that later, I'm sure. But it's overwhelming. Like, you don't know what to do. I always liken it to going into choppy waters and just wave after wave crash over your head, and you're breaking up, you're gasping for air, and another one hits you, and another one, and another one, and another one. And at some point, your body just goes, I cannot swim against this anymore.
You did survive. Yeah. And for someone that perhaps is having those thoughts, they're in that choppy water now, they're thinking, I can't go on another day, I don't want to do this, I'm exhausted, there's no future. In that moment, do you have any advice for someone that...
Yeah, get help. Get help. It is temporary. It feels like you're in there forever. It feels like this moment will last forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. It doesn't. And it's a little bit of a tired saying, but it gets better. But only you can make it better. And you can. I promise you, you can. And there are people out there who will help you, will have your back, will support you. They will give you all the resources and tools you need, but just ask for help. Reach out, talk to a friend, talk to a colleague, talk to a loved one, talk to someone completely random on the end of a phone line, talk to a Samaritan, call up one of these wonderful charities we have, find a therapist, find a psychiatrist, but talk. So the first thing you have to do is just uncork it and let it out. And that in itself gives you that little bit of respite, and then you might just find someone who can help you through it.
And you have.
Yeah.
And it's great to have you here. Let's talk, because you retrained as a psychotherapist. Yeah. You have developed your own method of helping others. Talk me through your approach, because it is different to the...
It is. So when I sort of got out of hospital, I was still working in the city, and I need to go on a sabbatical. So I went on a sabbatical and did what any reasonably sane person would do, and I ran away to Thailand and became a professional fighter, which was interesting. And while I was out there, I sort of said, right, I don't want to work in the city anymore. That's number one. What do I want to do? And I'm going to go, it's going to be really annoying, because this is one of the first things my psychiatrist said to me, was like, you'll end up helping people, by the way. And I was like, all right, mate. I was like, crap, I'm going to end up helping people. Okay, how do I want to help people? So I said, okay, what do I want to change? So I thought, okay, let's think just what therapy is. It's quite a gentle, explorative process, with the therapist as more of a guide than anything else. And not all therapists work, but a lot of therapists are sort of slightly sort of faceless, personalityless. It is, you'll know nothing about me, you'll see me 1 hour a week, and that is it. And you go and it's assignable. That's fantastic if that's how you're wired and that's good for you and you want to do exploratory. I know people who have done it that way and it's been brilliant for them. But for a lot of people, that's not what they need. And I thought, okay, so let's see what I feel I could have added into my therapy journey, which would help. And I thought, okay, so number one, way more in your face and upbeat, and just, right, we can do this together. You and me, we've got this. Add that in. Secondly, make it a little bit more immersive. So it's, when I work with clients, and you know, I sort of take this on, and a lot of people wouldn't, and I'm lucky I don't have kids or things like that to me, so I can devote more time between sessions with clients. So I see clients for an hour a week, but I insist on contact between sessions. I want it to be a rolling sort of thing. Now, firstly, that's for my own purposes. I want the raw data. I want to know if you have had an anxiety attack or a sudden bout of low mood. I want to know exactly what's going on the day. Even if I don't reply on that day because I'm busy, I want the raw data, because as soon as that gets locked into long-term memory, every time you revisit it, it changes slightly. And say I see you on Wednesday mornings, something happens on Wednesday afternoon, by the next Wednesday morning, that data is warped slightly. So I want the raw data. Now, the best thing that happens is I happen to be on my phone at the time, say, and you say, okay, Jack, I've just had this anxiety attack, but I'll talk you through it right now. I can work with you in real time to develop the skills with you that you need, so next time this happens, you can get yourself through it better. And that's brilliant. I love doing that. So that's the second thing. Now, the third thing is, I mean, it's not a novel concept. There's a classic quote by Carl Jung, who I'm about to absolutely butcher this quote, but it's essentially, know all the theories, learn all the techniques, but as you touch another's human soul, be just a human soul. And it's bringing humanity into the therapy room. It's saying, I have been where you are. That doesn't mean we're the same. It doesn't mean I will completely get your perspective, because everyone's different. Yeah. So it's telling people, we've got this, me and you together. Because
if you build that trusting relationship with someone, if they can relate to you and say, well, I'm sat here with my therapist has been through this, he got through it, so what's stopping me from getting through it? That's really hard to find. Yeah. So how do people go about finding those qualities in a therapist? Or how would they even go about finding what works for them? So
the first thing I process is that my style will not work for everyone. Like, someone will come into my office, and the energy you're seeing here is kind of the energy I bring to the therapy room, and they'll be like, no, absolutely not. I'm out here, and that's absolutely fine. I like to say, when I sort of talk to new clients, I make sure that the first thing, we just have a long chat, person to person, not necessarily professionally, about what I've been through, what they've been through, how I work, etc. And I make it very clear to them. I say, right, firstly, if you want to work with me, you have to wait 48 hours to sign up, because you'll initially be like, okay, I want to work with this guy. That's fine. No, you've got to let that settle down. And I say, look, my ego is absolutely massive. It won't offend me whatsoever if you don't want to work with me. But if you don't, I'll help you find someone more suitable for you. I'm not going to leave you out in the wilderness. So I'll circle back down to your question. How to find a therapist? It's a very good question. Not a lot of people know the answer to it, and I'm still figuring it out myself. So there are directories, obviously, online where you can go to, the BACP or the BPS, or a lot of charities will have recommended partners as well. Wonderful. The first thing to think about is, don't get hung up on the type of therapy. There are 1,000,001 acronyms out there. None of them will mean anything to the layperson. There is CBT, there's ACT, there's this and that, and all the other things. There's hypnotherapy, there's mindfulness coaches, there's all this stuff. The technique is not the most important thing. The human is. So have a look at some techniques, learn a little bit about it. Chances are you'll know someone who's seen a therapist, talk to them about it as well. Some of the stuff might put you off certain techniques, that's absolutely fine. But then it's about finding someone, firstly, that you can actually see, so someone local, hopefully, but obviously there's a lot of Zoom therapy at the moment, teletherapy, which works pretty well, and I've had some pretty good experience with that in the last year as well. It's not jumping at the first therapist you meet, because you will feel this weight off your shoulders for finally talking to someone about it and getting it off. Don't conflate the removal of that burden with the idea that this is the right person for me. You have to think about it very much. The way I work is I work on referral only, pretty much. I don't market myself, I don't really do any advertising. All my clients come either from people in my life who recommend them, or the majority of them from previous clients who've said, I've got a guy, go and see him. And that's a lovely way to work.
Are there any kind of common things that are coming up that you've been able to say, okay, well, this is something that, is really common that I'm seeing, whether it be a specific challenge, whether it be the stress side of things, whether it be a link up between people's jobs? Is there any kind of common?
There are trends within sort of smaller subgroups, I'd say, but there's not an overriding thing. I think one of the interesting ones that pops up is some more broader existential questions that people are asking themselves, and that fits well with me because I like to throw a bit of existential philosophy into some of my stuff. I'm a big fan of Nietzsche. I try and make a lot of my clients read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which is a wonderfully powerful, very, very short book. Everyone read that book. But some people are coming, they're going, well, you know, something I hear sometimes is, do I want to bring children into this world? Okay. You know, what's happening to the broader world? Where do I fit into the world? And it's sometimes people go from thinking from the micro to the broader macro sense. And that's a really interesting thing. And it shows an inquisitive mind. It's a really healthy way to think about it. And that's where you have to bring some more sort of philosophical ideas and some broader, interesting questions into the equation to help them navigate how, because ultimately, there's no wrong answer to those things. But you have to help people understand why they're thinking that way and what they can do about it.
Jack, thank you so much. It has been an absolute honour to have you on the sofa and on Mindful Conversations, and well done on your recovery.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.